Church, Lil Kev really going through it. Mama gone, daddy emotionally unavailable, wife trying to leave him one day and braiding his hair the next, and in my mind, calling the police on him when he just trying to go to grief counseling to get a healing for his soul. Give me a healing for my soul. I got my notes, y'all bring y'all opinions, and let's get on into this damn mess. Y'all, so when last we spoke, Trina had brought the girls to grief counseling and had conjured up her grief counselor spirit to help the people get a healing for their soul. All right, so let's start here. First and foremost, some housekeeping items out the way. Church, what was Toni's red confessional dress? Like, what was that all about? Okay, y'all know exactly what I'm saying. If I could find a picture of it, I'ma link it somewhere over here so y'all could see it and so we could have a conversation through the screen and in the comments, okay? I couldn't decide whether or not that thing on her neck was a flower, but in my mind, it was really a crab claw. That's what it was. It was giving crustacean, okay? It was looking like a crustacean, like right here on her neck. The dress was nice from what I could see from the waist up, but that little detail, it was just bothering me. It was bothering me on one hand. On the other hand, it was making me want some Red Lobster real bad because, you know, the red claw made me think of a Red Lobster, which made me think of Cheddar Bay biscuits, but that's just how my mind works. So y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what y'all think that thing on Toni dress was. Was it a flower from the, you know, tropical Caribbean, or was it a crab claw like what I was thinking in my mind? All right. Next up, let's talk about behind the scenes last days with Traci. You know, on one hand, you ever see something and you think, should we actually be seeing this? Like, that's what I was kind of going through in my mind. It just seemed like these intimate videos, these last days with Traci, like they're so precious. Okay, so on one hand, it's like, yo, you know, maybe we shouldn't be seeing this. But on the other hand, I was like, you know what? I'm actually grateful that they showed the footage, because the thing about cancer is that you think people are, you know, downtrodden, despondent, bedridden, you know, they've lost all semblance of themselves. And Traci was such a vibrant person, right? A vibrant person. And so seeing that she still had some semblance of who she was even till the very end was very beautiful to see. She was dancing with her sisters, cracking jokes, you know, being the Traci that we all knew and loved. So thank y'all for showing those behind the scenes videos. I know y'all didn't have to, but it's definitely a blessing, more than it makes me think that we're intruding on y'all family moments, okay? Now let's get back to this spirit discussion that Trina done conjured up her grief counselor. So let's start with Trina. Now, when last we spoke, Trina did not want to start off the talk, okay? Because she was just so emotionally overcome. But now, once we see this episode, I understand, Trina, why you didn't want to, you know, lift up every voice and sing, because you've been going through a lot, okay? So Towanda said that Trina wasn't strong enough to watch Traci take her last breath. And after, you know, Trina watched Traci take her last breath, she now has PTSD, she can't sleep, and she's stress eating and drinking. Honestly, in order to watch somebody take their last breath, I would imagine that you have to have a very strong sensibility, okay? I've seen people in the stages of dying. I've never seen them actually take their last breath. Y'all know that my medical degree comes by way of Grey's Anatomy University. So all I have the reference for is, you know, when you see the medical dramas on TV and people, you know, be talking 1 minute and then they... and then their eyes close or they, you know, move to the side. But I've never seen it up front and, you know, up front, personal, and up close. So I have to imagine that you have to have a strong sensibility for that. And if you're not necessarily ready for it, it can probably affect you, which is what we're seeing with Trina, right? So like I said, she got PTSD, she can't sleep, she's stress eating and drinking. Now, I truly hope that you get some healing for the PTSD, Trina, because that could definitely be a killer, okay? In my mind, if you have PTSD and it's affecting your sleep, you know, eventually after the stress eating and drinking, you're going to try to find something else to kind of, calm down your mind and get you into that sleep cycle. And that's normally in the form of prescription medication, right? So before you know it, you got this PTSD thing that got you stress eating and drinking. Next thing you know, you're going to need medication to actually get to sleep. And then what happens, now that you are taking medication to get to sleep, now you need more medication to get the hell up, right? So it's just a cumulative cycle if you let it end up being that, okay? So definitely get some help for that. And on the stress eating and drinking, look, people have different ways of coping with grief. And on the kind of levels of dealing with your grief, stress eating and drinking to me is less dangerous than the alternatives in terms of prescription drugs and stuff like that. But just watch it, because the thing about stress eating and drinking is them pounds are very easy to put on, okay? God knows, I know, them pounds are so easy to put on, okay? But that damn weight will sneak up on you like a thief in the night, okay? Next thing you know, you look up, you done blown the hell up and you don't know what the hell happened and what come for, okay? So Trina, just be careful. Definitely heal the PTSD, because in my mind, based on you talking to Spirit and your sisters, once you heal the PTSD, or at least find a way to manage it more appropriately, everything else will fall into place. So good luck, girl. Now let's do a rapid fire grief update. We just gonna go through the people, because everybody doesn't need their own segment per se. Everybody has, varying levels of grief. So let's do a rapid fire grief update. So Tamar say that she already did grief counseling and says she has coping traits. Now, in regards to Traci, I would agree, okay? But if we talking about that situation that happens towards the end of the episode with her and Towanda, that deserves its own bullet point, and we have one, and we'll talk about that later. Towanda says that she's come to terms with it and believes Traci's spirit is still here. I would agree. I'm more spiritual than I am religious. And, shout outs to all the spiritual versus religious people in the congregation. Spiritual hands stand up or whatever. But, I'm a firm believer that we are spirits having a human experience, and something we're learning here is supposed to prepare us for the life afterwards, okay? So I'm a firm believer that energy is never lost, it's just recycled and redistributed, okay? So, I'm of the Towanda thinking as well. Even though Traci is not here in the physical, her spirit is still here and she's still looking over y'all, all right? Miss E, she's still grieving, but knows that she'll see Traci again. But the one thing that you can count on with Miss E is Miss E got her Jesus, okay? To me, she got a seat at the right hand of the master, okay? In terms of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Some people, even if they go through trials and tribulations, you could just tell that their spirit is so full of, being saved, sanctified, and full of the Holy Spirit that no matter what happens, they're going to be okay. So even though I'm sure Miss E is grieving in her own way, she just has that strength about her that lets you know that she going to be okay, and she knows she going to see Traci again one day. Now, in terms of the people that was on the Zoom, we gonna get to Lil Kev in a bit, but let's talk about Mr. Braxton, okay? I don't know what grief Mr. Braxton may or may not be going through. Just like Miss E, he lost a child, but men tend to grieve in different ways, especially straight men versus, gay men. I'd be a messing on the floor. Granted, what we're seeing in terms of this family is years removed from the actual event of Traci's death. So perhaps all of that processing has already happened. But in terms of Mr. Braxton, all he really said was that he was there to support his family in terms of what they need, okay? So hopefully he's gotten some healing for his soul, on his own. But it just seems like he's just trying to be there in support of his family. And last but not least, in terms of these rapid fire updates, where is Mikey? Where he at? Okay, Michael Braxton Jr. All right, now I know we don't see him very often on this show or whatever, but if you involved all the siblings and stuff, then I would have thought that, Michael would have at least been on the Zoom, okay? He ain't have to say nothing, but we don't ever really see him. So, y'all just drop down in the comments and let me know where y'all think Mikey was. or he probably had other stuff he was dealing with. And if we haven't really seen him much on this show to begin with, then I guess his absence is really not that felt. But I did really want to know, if we doing family grief counseling, I thought that at least he should have been there on the Zoom, even if he ain't say nothing. Now let's move on to Toni. So Toni says that she's angry and suppressing emotions. She feels like she has to be the strong one. Isn't it funny, the roles that we play and the roles that we get placed in by our parents and just by circumstance, how they can affect us in terms of our future development, right? Granted, Miss E and Mr. Braxton did the best they could, but it seems like they created a dynamic amongst the girls where, especially in the early years, it was very codependent, right? Where Toni felt that she couldn't live her best life without always being, for lack of a better term, shackled to her sisters, right? She always got to take care of them. And she even said in the therapy session, it took on more of a maternal thing where she felt like these were her own children versus them being her actual sisters. So, Toni always feels like she has to be the strong, silent type. She can't show that, she's having emotions and that things are affecting her as well. And I would tell Toni the same thing that my therapist is always telling me when I'm going down a road that doesn't seem to be working out for me. How's that working out for you, right? And if the answer is not well, then, it does take a while to unlearn bad behavior, but until you start making the first steps of doing that, in terms of you don't have to be the person that's always strong and silent, you're going to keep, going around those same types of, patterns. So good luck, Toni, with that. Now, Toni thought it would be her to go first instead of Traci, since she's the oldest and sick, plus Traci has so many obstacles, so it seems unfair. Life is unfair. It truly is. And if we're just talking about, the fair and unfair column, let's talk about it, all right? Because if you think about it, Traci did have a lot of obstacles. Traci, she didn't really live a charmed life. It was like a life of always feeling like you've been left behind, always having to prove yourself, never feeling like she fit in properly with her sisters, marched to the beat of her own drum in terms of trying to find her own way, felt that she got left behind in terms of the Braxtons group when she got pregnant with, Lil Kev, had a late start in terms of getting to the career that she wanted because she was dealing with so much, emotions regarding how she felt, concerning her family. And then the moment that she finally gets on in terms of the music going right, career going right, I'm feeling good about myself, she gets sidelined with this cancer thing that eventually takes her out, okay? And the thing that struck me about Traci's death is that she always felt that she was left behind, right? And I'm about to get spiritual, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but there's a part of the Bible, I don't know the Bible fully, please, feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know which verse and chapter, but I believe there's a part of the Bible that goes, those who have been last will eventually be first, okay? So look, I know that Traci would rather be here with, her husband, her family, her child, etc., but in a weird way, right? In a weird way, her leaving first, even though it was unfair, it honestly feels like she has the ability to make a place and make a way for the rest in terms of the other side, right? Just in a weird spiritual type conversation, just think about that. She was always, perceived to be last in life, but now she's first in terms of going to the other side and making a way and making a space and making, everything good on the other side for her family, her sisters, etc. Okay? Don't read me too hard just in case y'all don't agree, but that always did strike me regarding the Traci situation, that maybe in a weird spiritual way, she's making a way for the others in terms of being the first one on the other side, okay? And Toni feels that the sisterhood closeness is gone since Traci was the glue. Hindsight is always 20/20. And, from the people's perspective, they feel like the sisters, the family treated Traci like the redheaded stepchild. And now when she's gone, it's revisionist history, in terms of what the relationship was or whatever. But in hindsight, she definitely was the glue. She was the comedic relief to all y'all situations. You know, her desire to try to get onto the music thing and get her sisters back together and get the family back together always seemed to be the driving force in terms of y'all always trying to come back together. So now that she's gone, you know, she wanted y'all to do this Braxton family value show, the Braxtons or whatever, in order for y'all to still stay some semblance of the way together. So if you think about it, yeah, she was the glue in life, but she was also the glue in death in terms of making y'all do this show to try to, I guess, facilitate some type of closeness and or healing, even if she's not here in the physical, right? So now let's get into this Kevin Jr. situation. So we learned that Kevin Jr. was blindsided with divorce papers before the 2-year anniversary of his mom's death. That's some messed up stuff. I think that Kevin's wife or soon-to-be ex-wife name is Olivia. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if I've got that right or if I've just made up a name. But in my mind, her name is Olivia, right? So we just gonna go with it whether or not it's not. But you done pledged to love, honor, and cherish me through the good and the bad, richer for poorer, X, Y, and Z. You done made these promises to my mama on her deathbed that you gonna be there for me, you gonna hold me down in X, Y, and Z. And then 2 years post her dying, you blindsiding me with divorce papers, don't know whether you want to stay married, get divorced, you doing my hair one day, and in my mind calling the police on me the next day in order to, you know, get some get back. It's a fool in terms of that situation. But I'm mature enough to realize that there are always 3 sides to every story, okay? Your side, their side, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle, okay? And all we've really known so far is Kev Jr.'s side. And, you know, because we love the Braxtons and Traci and by extension her children, we finna ride with that explanation. But I'd be curious to know from the Olivia perspective, what was the breakdown of the marriage? So while Kevin is trying to get this grief counseling with the family, some authority figure shows up in the background of the Zoom, and Towanda basically gets the story that someone someone anonymously called and said he has a warrant, so he turned himself in to find out what the warrant is about. Okay, so let's break down the dynamics of this situation. So Lil Kev had to get off the Zoom, he had to go, and it kind of made the family dissolve into this emotional state, right? So I don't know any of what I'm about to be saying to be true, so I just always preface that with allegedly, okay? In my mind, Towanda and Trina knew something, okay? You could just tell by sheer body language and sheer what happened, you know, post the phone call with Lil Kev, okay? Towanda leapt into action, all right, got her phone and started calling him. Trina didn't really look that fazed, okay? So in my mind, even if they didn't know the full extent of the situation, they knew more than the rest of the people, okay? Miss E, I'm a little bit on the fence in terms of what she knew and what she didn't know, because Miss E, you know, she got that church quietness about her. Okay, she cool as a cucumber. But if y'all notice, she was like, Towanda, go ahead and call him and stuff like that. So in my mind, she may have known something, even if she ain't know the full story. Okay, so in my mind, Towanda and Trina knew the most. Miss E had a cursory knowledge of it. And then, you know, Tamar and Toni, they basically were bewildered. They didn't know what the hell was going on. Now, look, to be completely honest, when the situation was happening, I was basically Tamar in the situation. What the hell going on? Who's that in the background? What you mean warrant? Where he gotta go? Is the police involved? Who called him? That was me. Okay, you just trying to figure out the information, all right? But the thing about the dynamics of that family is that it instantly goes from bewilderment to anger and accusations, right? Now, granted, as I said, Towanda and Trina knew more than what they was letting on, but the thing about it is this: I don't think it was as nefarious as Tamar was trying to make it out to be, okay? Tamar was thinking this some conspiracy that, you know, Towanda and Trina trying to basically keep her away from, don't want her to know the information. Honestly, it was given 2 things. First and foremost, Tamar and Toni are on the West Coast in LA, okay? And then you got Trina, Miss E, and Towanda in Atlanta or the Atlanta area. And then you got, the rest of them in terms of what Mikey, Mr. Braxton, Tracy's family up in like the Maryland area, okay? So from a sheer proximity perspective, the people that's on the East Coast is going to know more about each other because they probably have more opportunities to get together and hang out, okay? Then you compound that with the fact that Trina and Towanda is in the same damn city. Of course they gonna be Velcro and they gonna be, knowing what the hell going on in terms of the information. All right. Now, secondhand, in terms of what it was given, is that if Trina and Towanda knew what the hell was happening, the thing about the law is this. Whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, right? So I don't think they was trying to keep Tamar in the dark just to keep her in the dark. I think that they realized that this is on camera and anything that could possibly be said could possibly get Lil Kev hemmed up in the future, okay? So I don't think it was as nefarious as Tamar was making it out to be, but because of the dynamics of the family and the mistrust that's already there underlying, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump for Tamar to make that, mental leap, all right? And y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if y'all agree. Now that leads us into Tamar's boundaries. Tamar say that she not begging for a sisterhood relationship. And she going, on and about in terms of her boundaries are her boundaries, and they stay that way. Now, me and Trina clocked it, okay? Because when Trina sat in her confessional and she was like, look, you need to get specific in terms of who you talking to because it's given very broad and very, generalization, okay? Trina said, in front of Tamar, when you call, 9 times out of 10, I'm there, okay? So let's just go through the sisters. If Trina is there when Tamar calls 9 times out of 10, right? We already know that Tamar and Toni got an amazing relationship, okay? Then by process of elimination, the only person you could possibly be talking about in terms of having a sisterhood relationship with is Towanda, okay? So don't make things general when they actually need to be specific, okay? So Trina nailed that thing. In terms of the Tamar and Towanda dynamic, Tamar talking about her boundaries are her boundaries and they stay that way. And in my mind, it seems to be a conflict of boundaries versus I'm no longer negotiating with terrorists, okay? So because Tamar always feels that Towanda trying to keep her out of the loop and keep her, on the fence. If you let the truth be told, when Towanda is keeping Tamar out of the fray, it honestly part of the way is given that it's not her story to tell. If Lil Kev wanted you to know Tamar, he would have basically called you a bring and told you what the hell was going on, right? So I don't think she's intentionally trying to keep you out of anything. I just think that, if she's the secret squirrel of the family, then sometimes that involves you not being able to tell all the information, okay? So that gives that. So on the Tamar side, it's the boundaries. On the Towanda side, is that she don't feel like, negotiating with terrorists no more. So Towanda got her boundaries too, if you think about it, because if, you always labeling me as this secret keeper and I'm trying to keep you out the fray, and I know that not to be true about myself, then I'm going to have boundaries as well. I'm not negotiating with terrorists no more because it's just the emotional draw in order to get us into a future argument, okay? So, what it's truly giving at the culmination of this situation is that Towanda and Tamar, they love each other, but at the core of it, they don't like each other. And that's okay, okay? And sometimes it's hard for people to kind of, realize and take in. I have a semi-similar relationship with my brother in that respect. We love each other. There's nothing that he can't ask me for. If he needs me, I'm gonna be there. But we don't really like each other, okay? But it's always been that type of relationship. Some siblings are extremely close and some are kind of distant, and we're the kind of, the distance set, okay? But I do find that it's troublesome for the people around us because they think that we should be closer than we are, all right? Now, granted, sometimes people need to mind their business and let the relationship be what it is, but the difference in my situation versus the Towanda and the Tamar situation is that in my situation, we were never close, okay? In y'all situation, y'all was close, but then there, became a divide that just grew and grew and grew over the years. So maybe it can be healed, but I honestly think that everybody always trying to have the 2 cents about, y'all relationship and trying to make y'all make up and trying to make y'all be best friends, it kind of makes it worse. Sometimes you just have to let absence make the heart grow fonder, and maybe y'all will grow fonder to each other and maybe y'all won't, but I think that y'all are grown enough to just be civil, so then that leads us into Miss E, breaking down and yelling at them. If Traci's death can't bring y'all together, the one thing that always seems to get y'all together is Miss E starting to yelling, okay? The minute she start yelling, a hush falls over Jerusalem as well, and y'all ain't got much to say in terms of just listening to what she got to say in terms of y'all situation. And she's completely right. Just like I said, y'all act like y'all, don't like each other. And, in terms of going back to that conversation we were having before about being specific versus being general, in my mind, I don't think she was telling all of them that, they like each other, but they act like they don't like each other. I think she was specifically talking to Towanda and Tamar, okay? But in order to make the message go over better and to not feel like she's targeting those two, she made it general, okay? Now, y'all all got issues collectively in terms of not being as close as y'all used to, and you could say it's, the business, it's time, it's, grief that has pulled y'all apart, or, if you want to let the truth be told, it's probably reality TV that got a whole large element to it as well. But, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But, Miss E was absolutely right. She lost a child, and life is fleeting, life is short. And even if y'all can't heal everything completely, at least y'all could come to a good semblance of a situation that allows y'all to coexist peacefully. And that seems to be the major problem among all of y'all. So we'll see what happens in terms of what's going to happen next week. But if Traci's death does not bring y'all together, then honestly, it's probably just going to tear y'all apart. And that would be a big travesty because y'all are all stronger together in the collective versus individually. And that's just my 2 cents on it. But y'all, I think that's all I got. So if you liked what I said, please give a thumbs up and join the congregation by subscribing. And until next time, church, stay forever young and forever juicy and forever out some mess. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.